All right, this is Chapter 1, Lesson 8, Slope. So, blank is the rate of change between any 2 points on a line. In that blank, you're going to write slope. Slope is the rate of change between any 2 points on the line. Okay? So slope can be known in various things. M is almost always used for slope. It can equal the rise over the run. Okay? That's what a lot of times you'll hear that when you're looking at slope, especially when you're looking at lines. You're looking at the rise, how much it goes up over how much it goes to the left or right. So the rise of the run. Okay? In a linear relationship, the blank change in y value per unit of blank change, the change in x value is always the same. In those two blanks, you're going to write vertical and horizontal. So in a linear relationship, the vertical change or change in y value per unit of horizontal change or the change in x value is always the same. Another way that you can write slope is using a triangle. Okay, this is called delta. It's actually a Greek letter, delta. Delta means change, so change in y. So this actually means change. So the change in y over the change in x, so the change in the y values over the change in x values. We actually just saw this in constant rate of change. So when it's change, you're subtracting 2 of the y values and 2 of the x values and then dividing them. It's the same type of thing with slope. You're finding the change in your y divided by your change in your x. Okay? Another way that we can write slope is the vertical change over the horizontal change. So vertical change is what's going up and down. Horizontal change is going back and forth. Okay. The ratio is called the blank of the function. In this blank, you're going to write slope. And the constant rate of change is the blank as slope. You're going to write same. Okay. So the ratio is called the slope of the function. The constant rate of change is the same as slope. So it's the exact same thing we just talked about at the last lesson. All right, so the slope tells us how blank the line is. In that blank, you're going to write steep. How steep the line is. All right? So in this example here, I have a rise of 2 and a run of 3. You can tell I went up 2, then over 3. Up 2, over 3. Up 2, over 3. So my rise is the amount of times that I've gone up. That's my change, my delta y, my change in y, over my change in x, my run. Okay, so I went up 2 and over 3. So my rise is 2, my run is 3. So my slope is 2/3. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at an example. So the example I have is the table shows the length of a patio as blocks are added. So number of patio blocks was 0, so my length was 0. When I added 1 patio block, my length became 8 inches. When I added 2, my length was 16, 3 was 24, and 4 was 32. You can see that this is actually a proportional relationship. It has a constant rate of change. So the first thing I want to do is I want to graph the data, then find the slope of the line. Explain what the slope represents. So the slope is the change in y over the change in x. So I picked 2 points on my line. These are the 2 points that were picked. 23 and 24 and 8 and 1. You don't have to pick those 2 points, completely up to you. I would actually recommend picking 0, 0 because that's almost always an easy point to use. Less things you have to subtract. So I subtract my 2. My change in y was my length. When I graphed my information, this was my x, this is my y. This is my x, this is my y. Okay? So my change in y, 24 minus 8 give me 16, and my change in x, 3 minus 1 gives me 2. 16 over 2 reduces to 8 over 1. So for every 8 inches, there is 1 patio block. Okay, that's what my slope represents. Make sure that you're following the directions, that you're writing down the explanation as well. So when you're solving a problem, that you're writing everything down. It's really important that you do that, not just for class, but when you're taking a test in the future. Sometimes your teacher might give you partial credit, but if you don't show your work, we can't give you that information. All right? So there are a couple of try it problems below. I want you to go ahead, pause the video, try out the problems, and when you're done, we'll go over the answers together. All right, now that you've tried out the try it problem, let's go over the answer together. So the question I have is graph the data, then find the slope of the line, explain what the slope represents. So I have cases and juice bottles. So my cases are my x, my juice bottles are my y values. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and graph the data. So one case has 12 bottles. So I go over 1, up 12, then 2, 24, 3, 36, and 4, 48. And I go ahead and connect my dots to form a line. Okay. Then I want to figure out what the slope is. Well, I can use my formula for slope. Change in y over change in x. And I'm going to pick 2 points. I'm going to pick these 2 points. Don't have to pick those 2. Those are just the ones I want to pick. So change in y is 24 and 12. So I subtract them. Change in x is 2 minus 1. 24 minus 12 is 12. 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay? Don't have to reduce anything. 1's my denominator. It's my unit rate. Okay? This tells me the slope represents that for every case, there are 12 juice bottles. Okay. Again, it said explain what the slope represents. Make sure you explain it. All right, and that is the end of Chapter 1, Lesson 8.